Good evening. This is Dave Jones with StormCenter Communications and GeoCollaborate. It's almost 6 o'clock here on the East Coast, and this is an update based on the Hurricane Center's 5 p.m. official update on Hurricane Milton. Milton has regained Category 5 strength with winds of 165 miles per hour. Now, this update is being provided for the Sensitive Information Sharing Environment, the All Hazards Consortium, so we can share information from emergency operations centers and their private sector liaisons into the private sector. So we're all looking at the same information at the same time. And Hurricane Milton, it is truly, truly impressive. It has regained Category 5 strength, and you can see it from this GOES East satellite image. This is the sandwich product where we can pull together different satellite wavelengths and enhance what we want to see. And it is just incredible from a meteorological perspective. Here is the eye of the storm. It's now wider than it was before. Yesterday it was a pinhole eye, went through an eye replacement, so it became a little bit wider. So now it's about 10 miles wide, and it is intense. You can see these gravity waves pushing out from the center of the storm. That is showing that the pressure is dropping rapidly. As a matter of fact, pressure from the latest hurricane reconnaissance flight shows a pressure of 905 millibars. Let me show you the satellite loop full here. You can see it. That is almost a pinhole eye. It is showing that Milton is increasing in intensity. It's pulling away from the Yucatan Peninsula. It does not have any inhibitions as far as development goes. The sea surface temperatures, they are still mighty warm in the mid 80s right now, and that is not going to block it. The only potential issue that we have with Milton as it approaches the west coast of Florida is the jet stream and perhaps some shear, some stronger winds at about 10,000 feet that could entrain into the hurricane and start to weaken it before landfall. But that's not going to do anything to the storm surge and the impacts. Let me show you the latest stats here on Milton. This was taken just minutes ago. 480 miles southwest of Tampa, Florida. Now, the location of 22.7 north, that has not made itself northward since the 11 a.m. advisory. So it's still staying on that 22.7 degree north latitude line, but it is moving towards the east, 87.5 west. Again, 480 miles southwest of Tampa, Florida, maximum winds 165 miles per hour, moving to the east-northeast, about 9 miles per hour. Look at that central pressure, 905 millibars. And we can go even closer here and dive in to the mesoscale sector. I'll move that over just a little bit here so you can see that eye rotating. Look at that. We can get in there even closer on this GOES imagery. I can take away these stats here and just show you what this system looks like. The eye is starting to clear out, which means we have that chimney effect again. The central dense overcast has evacuated from the eye. That means that we can see almost down to the surface of the Gulf of Mexico through that eye. This is an intense hurricane, folks. We won't see much more intense hurricane here in the Gulf of Mexico, although I do suspect winds could go up even more later this evening since the eye may be contracting a little bit. We'll watch this pressure. It's incredible that it's going down more. Those winds could pick up to 170, 175 during the next reconnaissance aircraft. I wouldn't be surprised, but of course we go with the official Hurricane Center observations. And the thing about this spinning is you can take a look. Let's see if we can get just a little bit closer in the eye there. Look at these clouds spinning around in the eye. Those are multiple vortices. They're multiple vortices. Actually, when Ted Fujita discovered doing EF or F damage ratings for tornadoes, he discovered in landfalling hurricanes, there were multiple vortexes that were rotating around the eye. And we're kind of seeing that in this GOES satellite image now. So that could be indeed multiple vortexes that are spinning. It is very common in Category 4 and Category 5 hurricanes to see that. But as I zoom out just a little bit, look at these intense thunderstorms ahead of Milton. Even over here to the northeast, we have quite intense thunderstorms. So what that basically means is if we're talking about a landfall in the west central coast of Florida around between 8 and 11 p.m. tomorrow night, these thunderstorms will be well ahead of the landfall of the storm. So this is probably tropical storm force winds. As a matter of fact, we can go over to GeoCollaborate, and I'll go over full screen here to GeoCollaborate. And here is that sandwich product again. And you can see those thunderstorms well ahead of Milton. Look at that. And these are pretty intense storms. And if I back out just a little bit, you can see the coast of Florida here. I selected just the mesoscale sector of the GOES satellite. So that is just a sector of the satellite image. So that's why it cuts off like this. That's why this imagery updates every minute. But take a look at the forecast track. Now, I want to point something out. The track itself looks like it's a little bit south of Tampa Bay. That's only the center line, and I have that on so I can click on some of these intensity forecasts within GeoCollaborate here. But I do want to point something out. Look at this track earlier today when it went from a Category 4 to Category 5. It went eastward. It didn't curve to the north. And so we're seeing a little bit of northward curve now. So this area, this reason why it went to the east and not north was just a little bit more high pressure, keeping it pushed down a little bit. This has resulted in a southerly track adjustment by the National Hurricane Center. Now, that does not mean that the impacts to the Tampa Bay, the risk is gone. Not at all. Look at these areas that are still under the storm surge warning from here all the way down to the tip of Florida. That storm surge warning includes amounts, storm surge amounts here with the colors. And I want to see if I can get on, I'm going to turn off the cloud layer just so it doesn't get in the way of some of my updates here. And I just want to focus in on Florida here for a second and what the impacts are going to be with this adjusted forecast. First of all, it doesn't make a big difference for the expected storm surge within Tampa Bay. I'm going to put the legend on here so you can see what I'm talking about. So in the blue area around the Big Bend, it's up to a 3-foot storm surge is possible with Milton when it makes landfall tomorrow evening, just because the wind field is going to be so large. And I'm going to show you that wind field in just a few minutes. Down here around Homosassa Springs, we're talking about up to a 6-foot storm surge. Now this graphic is showing the peak storm surge, what the Hurricane Center thinks the storm surge could be at its peak level when the storm Milton makes landfall, when Hurricane Milton makes landfall. Now down here from north of Clearwater to basically Homosassa Springs, or just south of that, the storm surge could be up to 9 feet in this area. And I'll zoom in here so you can see it's north of St. Petersburg. It's really for Hernando and Pasco counties. And I can click on this. This is 5 to 10 feet of storm surge, which is possible. And then when we get down here into the pink area of Tampa Bay, we're talking about a storm surge up to 12 feet. Up to 12 feet. And when I click on it, it says 10 to 15 feet. So in Tampa Bay, looking at the legend, it could be 12 or more feet in Tampa Bay. That will be devastating in Tampa Bay. And that extends all the way down to the Charlotte County, Sarasota County line. And so a lot of these islands that are in the area here around Sarasota will be impacted severely by storm surge. We're talking about Longboat Key. We're talking about the beaches around South Sarasota. And all the way down to the south here. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more, and show you what it looks like just a little further south near Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda. We're talking about a storm surge up to 12 feet in this area with Milton moving onshore, all because the wind field is expected to increase in size to become basically double the size of what it is currently. And then from Bonita Springs, including Naples, down to about the Collier County, Monroe County border, we're talking about a storm surge of up to 9 feet. Up to 9 feet peak surge. This says 5 to 8, but storm surge could be up to 9 feet. This is going to be a much more damaging, dangerous, life-threatening surge than you even experienced in Hurricane Helene. This is going to be a significant surge, and it's going to impact hard-hit areas such as Fort Myers and Fort Myers Beach was hit so hard in Hurricane Ian. Now I'm gonna back out here a little bit because I do want to show you the wind field forecast. We've talked about this the last couple of updates, and the wind field forecast is what drives the storm surge, the actual wind field of the hurricane. So the first thing I'm going to display, and I'll turn on just to get rid of the confusion, I'm going to turn off the peak surge data layer. I'm going to turn on the surge watch and warning. This is where the storm surge warning is, all the way from this location down, including Tampa Bay, all the way down to the tip of Florida. That on the west coast, southwest coast, that's storm surge warning. Notice there's also a storm surge warning on the east coast of Florida, including Jacksonville and the river. So we're going to be dealing with a lot of water being pushed into Jacksonville and into the river. That combined with heavy rain is going to cause overflow of the Jacksonville River. And up towards Savannah, this is a storm surge watch, including Savannah up to just south of Charleston in South Carolina. That's where that looks. So let's get back to the wind field for a moment. I want to show you what the current wind field is of Hurricane Milton. This is the wind field right now. There it is. So let me explain this a little bit. What is the wind field? The airplanes fly through, the Hurricane Hunter aircraft fly through this storm, and they map the winds. Why do they do that? It's important because the wind pushes the water. And as long as we know the winds, we can see how much water is being pushed ahead of the storm. In the center here are hurricane force winds. That's winds of 74 to 165 miles per hour, which are the current winds. So that's the winds within this radius. This outer area is called storm force winds. That's basically winds above 50 miles per hour that go to 73 miles per hour. So it's tropical storm, but it's called storm force. And then this is tropical storm force winds, 39 miles per hour to 50 miles per hour. So the shape of this wind field is critical when we look at storm surge. And look how wide it's gotten since just when it was before approaching the Yucatan Peninsula. So we know the wind field is starting to expand, and it's going to continue to do that and get, we think, about twice as large as the wind field was when it was down around approaching the Yucatan, the northern Yucatan Peninsula. That's going to have profound impacts on the coastal areas as it pushes water inland. Remember, the trajectory of the storm also makes a big difference. If you have a storm like Helene that was moving parallel to the coastline, you have onshore winds, but you don't get the full brunt of the hurricane. This is a totally different story. Milton is going to move in such a way that it's going to make landfall perpendicular to the coastline. This is more like an Ian landfall, even more direct than Ian. And this is going to come in, and everything to the right, including Tampa, because you're going to be in the hurricane force winds, is going to get a lot of water pushed inland. That's the storm surge. And the storm surge in southwest Florida up to Tampa Bay is not survivable at those depths, even north of Tampa Bay. That storm surge of 5 to 10 feet is not survivable. You have to leave. Please leave now. As a matter of fact, if you don't have transportation, call the authorities and they will take you to a shelter in a safe location. There are mandatory evacuations in zones A, B, and in many cases C. You should check your local government websites and see what evacuation zones they've issued. The other thing that I want to show you is the forecast wind radii. Now, this is the National Hurricane Center forecast for the wind radii. And this is taking the initial radii and taking it out further. And here you go. This is the size. Look at how the size is going to change. This is the current wind radii, and look how it expands. So by the time Milton makes landfall tomorrow night, we have on our hands a major hurricane with 125 mile per hour winds forecast, with wind gusts to 155 miles per hour. Think about that. Nobody's house is survivable with 155 mile per hour wind gusts. That's making landfall as a Category 3 with wind gusts at the top end of Category 4. And so when the storm makes landfall, this is the radius of the tropical storm force winds. Look at that. And we'll just do, look, that's basically the entire peninsula of Florida from north to south, not the panhandle, but that's a huge wind field. I'll zoom in here a little bit more because these are the hurricane force winds that are forecast. And look at this. As it makes its way, the storm is not going to make this abrupt turn right here. It's going to make a more gradual turn like this. So it's going to carve a path of destruction across Florida. And the National Weather Service issues areas that they think are under the most intense danger for wind damage. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. Now I'm going to pan down here and show you, look at Melbourne. The forecast, so this time for the forecast is at 1 a.m. on Thursday morning. 1 a.m. Thursday morning. The storm's making landfall. And it's terrible that it happens at night because it just makes it even more difficult to understand how high the surge is coming in at nighttime. But then, by the time it gets over to Melbourne, look at this. 85 miles per hour. Folks, this is going to remain a hurricane across the entire state of Florida. Winds gusting to 105 miles per hour. Now I'm going to turn off that wind radii forecast. And I'm going to turn on areas where damage is expected. And so this is the wind threat expected when Hurricane Milton makes landfall. Okay. You can see in the purple here. In the purple area, this is potential impacts include structural damage to sturdy buildings, some with complete roof and wall failures, complete destruction of mobile homes, damage greatly accentuated by large airborne projectiles. Locations may be uninhabitable for weeks or months in this purple area. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen at every single location in this purple area, but this is the risk. Numerous large trees snapped or uprooted along with fences and roadway signs blown over. Many roads impassable from large debris and more within urban or heavily wooded places. Widespread power and communication outages in this purple area. Bring this up just a little bit here. Now, the red area, which includes Orlando, includes Melbourne, includes Port St. Lucie, down to Naples. That area, potential impacts include considerable roof damage to sturdy buildings, with some having window, door, and garage door failures, leading to structural damage, mobile homes severely damaged, with some destroyed. Mainly large trees snapped or uprooted. Many large trees snapped or uprooted, along with fences and roadway signs blown over. Some roads impassable from large debris, and more within urban or heavily wooded places. Several bridges, causeways, and access routes impassable. Large areas with power and communication outages. So make sure all your cell phones and all your devices are charged, because you may not have the ability to recharge them if you don't have access to a generator. And remember, on your phone, there is an SOS capability where your phone will connect to satellite, and you can let authorities know that you need help. But keep in mind, if you're in an evacuation zone and you do not evacuate, it's going to be very difficult for authorities to come and rescue you. You're putting not only your life in danger, but the responders' lives in danger if you're calling for help in the middle of the storm with a large storm surge that you were supposed to evacuate from. Out here in the orange area, I'll zoom out. This is what's expected in the orange area. Let me take the surge legend off there. We're talking about some damage to roofing and siding materials, along with damage to porches, awnings, carports, and sheds. Few buildings experiencing window, door, and garage door failures. Mobile homes damaged, especially if unanchored. Unsecured, lightweight objects become dangerous projectiles. This is a good time to remind everyone to bring anything you think could blow around from your outside in. Bring it inside. Otherwise, it may end up breaking your neighbor's windows. Excuse me. Several large trees snapped or uprooted, but with greater numbers in places where the trees are shallow rooted. Several fences and roadway signs blown over. Some roads impassable from large debris. Scattered power and communication outages, but more prevalent in areas with above ground lines. That's in this orange area and this orange area, including Lake Okeechobee, West Palm Beach, all the way down to Boca Raton, and down to Coral Springs and Pompano Beach, just north of Fort Lauderdale. This is an area where the wind field, remember I showed you, is going to be very large. In the yellow areas up here, this is a little bit less. Damage to porches, awnings, carports, sheds, and unanchored mobile homes. Unsecured lightweight objects blown around. Many large tree limbs broken off. A few trees snapped or uprooted. A few roads impassable from debris. Scattered power outages and communication issues. This is the expected damage from wind. This is from wind. I'm going to turn that off and turn on the inland impacts. Look at the path of the forecast path of Hurricane Milton and look at the damage impacts. That's in purple here. I'll bring that up just a little bit. In purple, what that means, extreme rainfall flooding may prompt numerous evacuations. This is rainfall impact from the storm. The rainfall leading to flash flooding. Rivers, tributaries may overwhelmingly overflow their banks in many places with deep moving water. Small streams, creeks, canals, and ditches may become raging rivers. Flood control systems and barriers may become stressed. Flood waters can enter numerous structures with multiple communities, some structures becoming uninhabitable or washed away. Numerous places where flood waters may cover escape routes, streets and parking lots may become rivers of raging water with underpasses submerged. Driving conditions become very dangerous. Should not plan tomorrow evening at all to drive through these areas in the purple. And where is that? I'll zoom in a little bit more. That includes Orlando. It includes Homosassa Springs, Spring Hill, down to Tampa, Clearwater, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, Bradenton. No one should be out on the roads tomorrow at all past noon. Tropical storm force winds are going to start moving in. Now, this is the flood threat because of the intensity of the rains. That is the flood threat. I'm going to turn that off. That's inland impacts. This is coastal impacts that are going to happen. And I just want to cover this very quickly. I'll also turn off the layer of the surge, watch, and warning, because that's storm surge warning in there. And if I zoom in now to Tampa and take a look at this area here, this is potential impacts, including widespread deep inundation, with storm surge flooding greatly accentuated by powerful battering waves, structural damage to buildings with many washing away, damage greatly compounded from considerable floating debris, near-shore escape routes and secondary roads washed out or severely flooded. This is going to be another thing. With Helene, we saw a lot of sand being washed in, and it covered the roads. This is a situation where beach roads will be washed away. They'll be gone. Just like we saw in some of the flooding in western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, floodwaters rip away the roads. Massive damage to marinas, docks, boardwalks, and piers. Numerous small craft broken away from moorings, with many lifted on shore and stranded. Extreme beach erosion. New shoreline cuts possible. That is in this purple area, and I'll zoom out because it's not just Tampa Bay. It's south of Tampa Bay. It's in Bradenton, Sarasota, all the way through all of the beaches in the county, in Sarasota County here. And that is going to be highly impactful. And it extends down to the south in Port Charlotte. This is Charlotte County, so Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, also down towards Fort Myers and Fort Myers Beach. Again, these are the impacts outside of the cone. They're going to happen well outside of the cone. So the impacts are the same. Potential widespread deep inundation with storm surge greatly accentuated by powerful battering waves. And so when you hear of storm surge in this area, you can add wind speed and wave height on top of that. The winds are going to be driving battering waves. So you could see 10 to 15 foot waves on the storm surge when it comes inland. That's no joke. And you can't fool with those kind of numbers. I do want to turn on one other thing that I've talked about before in the past. And that is some of the ocean observation platforms that we've been looking at. First, I'm going to turn off the initial, well, I'll keep the initial wind radii on so you can see that. But I'm going to turn off here the coastal threats, that layer. And these boxes that you see out here, these polygons, that's all because of severe thunderstorms that are occurring. I'll turn on the National Weather Service radar data, and you can see that rain is already coming off of, being streamed off of the hurricane and coming ashore in Florida. Now, rest assured, you are getting rain in Sarasota, Punta Gorda, Cape Coral. This is moisture ahead of Milton. We spoke to you about that before, that you're going to get rain saturating the ground, and so the rain from Milton is going to have nowhere to go but cause flooding. And that's indeed what we're seeing. I'm going to turn this radar data off so I can show you the ocean observation platforms. So I'm going to turn first on these global drifters. The global drifters are from UCSD, and look at this. Look at this. This is incredible, folks. I turned on the global drifters. These are brand new drifters that were just dropped from the NOAA P-3 Hurricane Hunter aircraft. And we're getting that data streaming into GeoCollaborate because of our partnership with NOAA Research, because we supported the 2023 Hurricane Field Campaign last year with GeoCollaborate to keep all the scientists on the same platform at the same time. Let's look at some of these numbers. The waves, these are significant wave heights that they're measuring right now. So just think about this. As Milton gets closer, we're going to be able to measure the wave heights in real time that the wind field is kicking up from Milton. You're seeing this here, folks. This is all happening right now. So the significant wave height is 4.3 feet. If we cut right across here, we're talking about 4 feet. So they're not really that big right now because the storm is still so far away. 3.9 feet, and we have a wave period of 6 seconds and a mean wave period of 4.5 seconds. That means every 4.5 seconds, a 3.9 foot wave comes by. 3.5 seconds. Just think about you standing at the beach having to fight a wave every 3 seconds. It would tire you out in a heartbeat. This is 3.2 feet. And the waves up here, really nothing. That was probably just dropped, and it's not recording the wave heights yet. Let's get a little bit closer to Milton. Look at this, a 9.9 foot significant wave height, and the wind field is still this far away. So 9.9 foot waves are coming every 5.7 seconds. Right here, ahead of Milton. This is the wind radius right now. And look, here's a drifter right here, and the waves are getting bigger. 10.9 feet. 10.9 foot waves right as the tropical storm force winds are onset. So it's only going to get bigger from there at a mean wave period of 6.7 seconds. And here's one here, this drifter. Let's see if it has waves. 15.9 feet, significant wave height. Outside of the tropical storm force winds, but the winds are so strong, remember, it's pushing waves out. Bigger waves out in front of it, but it's pushing waves out all around it. 15.9 foot waves at a 7.5 second interval. Again, that means if you're standing at the beach with your up to your knees, a 15-foot wave would hit you every 7.5 seconds. The first one would probably kill you. So now let me turn on the NOAA real-time data buoys from the National Data Buoy Center. We don't have any buoys that are right around the storm currently from the NOAA operational buoys, but we do have some that are just in front of it. This particular one, not working right now. No recent data. It's got to be fixed. Here's one right here. Winds gusting to 19.4 knots, so about 22, 23 miles per hour. And we're looking at a atmospheric pressure, 29.67 inches. The air temperature, 82. Looks like we don't have a water temperature out of this particular buoy. Here's another one here. There is a wave direction and a significant wave height, 4.9 feet. So the waves aren't bad out in this area here, but this is really incredible. This line of drifting buoys from their Lagrangian drifters from Scripps Oceanographic Institute supporting NOAA's research mission. So we're going to be able to tell you what the wave heights are as Milton gets closer. Be sure you check back with updates. We'll be here for you. So the last thing that I'd like to do is just to go over the Saffir-Simpson scale once again. I did this in my last update. Got a lot of positive feedback messages thanking me for just describing the Category 1 through Category 5. And folks, please don't let anybody tell you that there is a Category 6 storm out there or a Category 7. There is no such thing. And that's because we have damage scale associated with Category 1s. Now, the research part of the weather enterprise and the weather sector is going through studies to see what else we might want to include if the Saffir-Simpson scale were modified to include more than just wind speed. A lot of us meteorologists for many years have been saying that the Saffir-Simpson scale should be modified to include more than just the wind. We should be talking about impacts to people and society at large. But right now, a Category 1 storm, 74 to 95 miles per hour, will produce some damage. You can freeze the video, you can study this, and you can see what it looks like. I'll jump to Category 4 and Category 5 because those two categories produce catastrophic damage. Not many Category 4 or 5 hurricanes have hit the United States, but we have seen an increase in the frequency of Category 4 and 5 storms over the last 5 to 10 years. Currently, Hurricane Milton is a Category 5 hurricane with 165 mile per hour winds. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go any higher, but when you're talking about damage from wind, it doesn't really matter once you get above 157 miles per hour. You're going to have catastrophic damage. Matter of fact, Category 4, you're going to have catastrophic damage with winds above 130 miles per hour. And at landfall, Milton is forecast to make landfall as a Category 3 hurricane. It does not mean it's going to destroy every structure that is in its path. There are many areas like assisted living facilities and nursing homes and hospitals that are built to withstand higher wind speeds. And that is great news because those are the most vulnerable folks that can't get up and get around and evacuate at the last moment. But they are in facilities that are structured even more. They're tougher. They're tougher facilities. But when you get to Category 4 and 5, that is something that can destroy mobile homes. It can destroy houses, tear roofs off. And that is something that we're watching very carefully because we don't want wind gusts to approach Category 4 force when Milton is making landfall. So for the All Hazards Consortium, the Sensitive Information Sharing Environment, we're going to have another week, several weeks, dealing with Milton and Milton recovery, Milton cleanup. The latest trajectory of the forecast is not good, taking a perpendicular strike into Florida's peninsula. And once again, I'll just reiterate what the National Hurricane Center said in some of their discussions, that Hurricane Milton has the potential to be one of the most destructive hurricanes ever recorded for the west central Florida coastline. We're going to be monitoring this throughout the night and all day and all night so we can keep you informed and keep the All Hazards Consortium informed and make sure we have food and fuel going into the areas during this recovery area. And I do want to make one more announcement. And that announcement is that the Energy Marketers of America have a program called the Disaster Fuel Response Program. This program is not for individuals, but it is for small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses, and government agencies or municipalities. If you need fuel, the Energy Marketers of America have gathered together on a volunteer basis all of the fuel providers that do it professionally. And they've said, listen, if we get calls, put us in contact with those folks who need fuel, and we will deliver it to them. Now, they won't be delivering fuel in the middle of a Category 3 hurricane. But once this storm passes, fuel will be available to help generators keep going. And you can contact Sherry Stone at that phone number that you see displayed, or contact Sherry's email address. And she will put you in contact if you are a small business, medium business, or you're a municipality, state organization, and you need fuel, the Energy Marketers of America and the Disaster Fuel Response Program will be there for you, and they will put the right fuel provider together for you and deliver fuel. That's it for this update. It's been very long. I apologize for that. There's a lot to talk about as Milton gets closer. Once again, Milton is a Category 5 hurricane, and it has winds of 165 miles per hour. And I'm just going to show this full screen here. Winds of 165 miles per hour with higher gusts, and the movement is east-northeast at 9 miles per hour. That pressure of 905 millibars is just meteorologically phenomenal. It was even down below 900 millibars earlier, and it may be headed there again. So thank you so much for watching this update. We'll be back again in the morning around 11 to 12 o'clock after the 11 a.m. National Hurricane Center forecast. I'm Dave Jones with StormCenter Communications and GeoCollaborate. Thanks so much for watching this update. Please take care of yourself, and please take care of your neighbors.